Hi, third graders. Welcome back to Reading Workshop. Hope you're doing great. I just wanted to come on here so that we could continue on to our next lesson. Last time, readers, when we joined for our nonfiction reading lesson, we were taking the time to really focus in on the pictures and the text features that our authors were using in the variety of books that you're looking at. And what we were doing is, remember, we made subtopics. We started with our topic, and then we came up with a list of things that we want to continue learning more about the main topic. And so each thing were our subtopics. And we found that when we studied the pictures and looked at those text features, that we continue to grow our ideas because we are becoming an expert in this certain category, because our end result is we're going to take all this information and we're going to teach it and share it with someone. So today's lesson is we are going to be taking the time to recognize the text structure as we study our subtopics. Remember, our subtopics were our list of ideas, kind of like a mini table of contents. So today, we're going to focus on the text structure. That's how the author presents and writes the material. Now, while we're looking at the text structure, we're still going to see text features like the bold words, and different things like that, and the little side charts. We're still going to see pictures, but now we're going to see how did they write this out? What kind of structure is the actual writing in? And if you think back to a few weeks ago, when we did this originally, when we talked about text structure, we know that it can be organized in a description form, a sequence form, first, second, third, or first this happened, next, finally, or the text structure might be in a cause and effect. So that's what we're going to look at today. So I'm hoping that you continue studying about the whatever topic that you chose last time, because we're still working on developing all of our knowledge from that. If you remember, we have been studying together about frogs, and I have a section here in this particular book that I want to share with you. And we're going to focus on the text structure, on how the author wrote the different information being displayed here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that information that I'm learning, and I'm going to either do some drawings, some note-taking. I'm going to pull from here the important facts that I'm going to be that expert on, that I'm going to teach it to someone. So I'm going to see how did they organize the structure, and what can I pull from here that I know is important that I need to relay to someone else. So again, looking for those bold-faced words, including the vocabulary that's new on these pages, will be important to teach that to someone else. All right, so I have my piece of paper ready, I have my book ready, I have my writing utensil ready, so that while I'm reading, I might take notes, or I might take notes after I read, okay? So we're going to share the section, which is titled The Cycle of Life, okay? And I'm going to read some of it to you, and then we're going to talk about how the author set up the structure of the book. The Cycle of Life. In the spring and summer, frogs and toads gather in large groups in ponds and streams. These large groups are called breeding choruses. They meet and mate and lay eggs. The eggs grow into adult frogs and toads. The changing and growing from egg to adult is called metamorphosis. These pictures show the metamorphosis of a frog. Now I'm going to stop there for a minute. Look at this paragraph, okay? We see the text structure of having, or the text features, of having the bold-faced words. Those are new vocab words. But now take a step back, and I want you to look at the text structure. How is this set up? Okay, well, we have our first paragraph, but now look at the next thing. We have these sections here with a picture, with wording, with a caption, but I want you to look at this one. I'm going to be reading this to you, and it has a number 1, okay? Then if we go to the next page, if we go here is our second. See the number 2? This is a text structure. This author is now taking the information, putting it into boxes with pictures, and putting the important information below it. Then we have box 3. So this is first, second, third. But now look at this text structure. They put the 4th one at the top. If we were to read this book naturally at school, we would read here, and then where would you usually go to this page? you would usually start at the top, wouldn't you? And you'd start reading and come down. But reading this nonfiction book, that wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't flow. So we have to use these numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, as our guide on what to read first, second, third, and fourth. That's how the author set this page up. Okay, so number 1 box. Female lay hundreds or thousands of eggs in the water. Frogs lay their eggs in clumps. Toads lay them in strings. The eggs are called spawn. Okay, so we have a new vocab word. We can see that this picture is a cluster of eggs. Okay, now we're going to go to box 2. After a few days, an egg turns into a tadpole. Tadpoles have long tails and breathe through flaps called gills. They cannot live out of the water. Okay, and again, we had some bold-faced words again. That word gills from last time also shows up. All right, let's go to the next section right here. The tadpoles soon grow legs. They lose their gills and develop lungs for breathing out of water. Their tail gets shorter and shorter until it disappears. And then finally, I'm going to read that top one, number 4. And that says, one day, an adult frog hops out of the water and onto the land. An adult frog's skin does not grow as the frog grows. Instead, the old skin splits and peels off, leaving a brand new skin underneath. Then the frog or toad eats its old skin. So we can notice that this author used some drawing type pictures as well as real pictures. And same that we have here. We had a drawing of a real frog hopping out, and then we have a real picture here. What I'm taking from this is the structure on how they set this page up. Would this be classified as a description, a sequence, or cause and effect? Well, I definitely see the sequence, don't you? The first, the second, the third, and the fourth that goes on, right? So that's the way that this structure was set up. So now if I were to take some notes, because I need to continue to expand on my knowledge, I would take my marker or pencil on my piece of paper, and I would take some notes from what I read and learned on these pages. What was the most important? Well, the main idea was the cycle of life, which is life cycle. So if I go back to my page from last week, this is one subcategory that I want to focus and learn on, the life cycle. So when I was on these pages, we had some new vocab words here. These are words that when I teach this topic to someone, I'm going to want to include those words to this new person that I'm teaching this to, because these are important words they're going to need to know. One was breeding choruses. Breeding choruses was a large group of frogs. So kind of relates to the penguins, right? When they had the big group of penguins living together. So I'm going to write down that vocabulary word with the definition. The other vocab word that was important that you have to understand so that you can understand this life cycle was metamorphosis. So I am going to put that is the changing or growing from an egg to an adult. Now I want to remember the steps, the sequence, how this text was set up. And they had it broken into boxes with a little drawing or diagram, okay? I want to do the same thing, but in my own work. I'm going to use this as my guide. So I like the idea of the sequence of a 1, 2, 3, and box 4. So what I did is I created my own box so that when I get ready to teach this to someone, I have the resources and materials ready. So I'd like to share that with you. So I titled my page Frogs, Cycle of Life. I wrote out my 2 definitions, the vocab words with the definitions, and then I want you to look at my bottom. Okay, I did a 1 box and I labeled it 1, and I did lots of little dots, and I labeled it as eggs. I didn't do a ton of writing. The book has a ton of writing, but I'm going to keep reading more and more and learn more about it and remember it. So this would just be my guide on how to teach it to someone. So I would remember, oh, they have eggs. And then I could go on and explain, oh, well, when there's a cluster of eggs, that's called a breeding chorus. And it's a large group of frogs that then, lay the eggs. And I could explain each step a little bit more. Then we know in step 2, that's when the tadpoles. So I drew a little tadpole to remind me, put a few little words, tadpoles. I know that at that point, that's when they have gills. And then step 3, they start growing legs. So I drew out the legs. And then finally, you have a full-size adult frog. So these are my notes that I wanted to include so that I could remember exactly what I read and all the important facts. Then what I would continue is I would go to my next book on frogs. I would go to that subtopic. Again, I'm doing life cycle right now. And I would look over that and see, did the text structure, did the author set it up in any different way to help me better understand what's taking place? And go from there. I might add to this same note page I have, or I might start a new note page. I don't know, what will ever work best for you is what you should do. Okay, so by doing these steps and focusing on your text structure, it's going to help you better understand more about this certain topic that you're studying, so that you'll be more prepared to share this and teach it to someone else. All right, so good luck with your reading today. I hope it's going great, and I will see you again tomorrow. All right, have fun, guys.